Greetings, everyone. This is Brock from Spock Connection with my review of Doctor Sleep. So, Doctor Sleep is about Dan Torrance, the young boy from The Shining, now all grown up, as he protects a young girl from a group of vampiric creatures known as the True Knot, while also confronting and dealing with his own personal demons, including those from the Overlook Hotel. It's got some good. There's some good changes from the book to the film, but there are also some that aren't so good. Obviously, there had to be changes because of the fact that this is a sequel to the movie The Shining and not the novel. And well, the movie and the book end a bit differently when it comes to The Shining. Sadly, this movie is long in the wrong places. And though it does have a great cast, and it's very well directed. So, anyway, let's move on to... Alright, so, cast of note, we've got Ewan McGregor as Dan Torrance. Now he's a recovering alcoholic who has what's known as The Shining, or The Shine. He currently, for the bulk of the story, he works in a hospice as an orderly, and he basically helps. Well, he helps patients as they pass away. We got Kylie Curran as Abra Stone, who's a young girl with an extremely bright shine, which makes her a target of the True Knot. Speaking of the True Knot, we got Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hat, who's seemingly the leader of the True Knot. Like I said, there are a group of vampiric creatures that feed off of psychic energy, namely people who shine. They also themselves shine, and or at least used to, and then they get turned. We got Zahn McClarnon as Crow Daddy, member of the True Knot as well as Rose the Hat's lover, also her right-hand man. Emily Ellen Lind as Snakebite Andy, who is a fairly recent addition to the True Knot. Formerly, let's say, I think not a con artist, but she was using her abilities in an interesting manner that was probably quite fitting. Carol Stryken as Grandpa Flick. Carol Stryken being the actor who played Lurch in 90s Addams Family movies. Grandpa Flick is a longtime member of the True Knot, probably amongst their oldest members. Cliff Curtis as Billy Freeman. He's a friend of Dan's, and he has a very faint... Well, in the book, it's established that yes, he does have a very faint shine. In the movie, it's implied but never confirmed. Also of note, Danny Lloyd, the actor who played Danny in The Shining, has a brief cameo. Henry Thomas appears as both Jack Torrance as well as an amalgamation of Jack Torrance and Lloyd the bartender from The Shining. Alex Esso plays Wendy Torrance, and Carl Lumbly plays Dick Haller. So, breakdown of the film. So we started off basically very broadly establishing what Danny has been doing since the end of The Shining. Namely, him and his mom moved to Florida. He continued to see some of the ghosts from The Shining, and Dick Halloran's ghost told him about, showed him how to create, basically give him the concept of creating lock boxes to put the ghosts in. so they wouldn't bother him. Years later, he's grown up and bit of a drunkard. Not to mention occasionally doing the odd bit of coke, one night stands, and yeah. And he wakes up. He has a few moments of, oh, I should not have. Oh God, this is a bad move. And he eventually makes his way to New Hampshire, where he's met after he gets off the bus by Billy Freeman, who ends up setting him up with a job as well as a place to stay, and soon enough, Alcoholics Anonymous as well. We also get the establishment of the True Knot, showing them as, well, I guess, basically vampires who subsist off of the psychic energy of people who shine. And finally, Abra Stone is introduced, and her shine is established. At one point, while the True Knot is feeding, Abra picks up the pain of the child they're feeding on and discovers they exist, and catching the attention of Rose the Hat in particular. She also begins interacting with, well, she's already begun interacting with Dan by leaving leaving chalkboard messages back and forth to one another. They then meet in person. As it turns out, Dan and Abra are actually rather close in neighboring towns. When they meet, Abra tells Dan about the True Knot, and he tells her, "Hey, hide your shine. Do almost anything." He even says, initially telling her to do anything, but then realize, no, don't become a drug addict, don't drink. Anyway, so he then has another talk with the ghost of Dick Halloran, and so which changes his mind, and he opts to help Abra as the True Knot comes after her, leading to the initial conflict between our heroes and the True Knot. After said conflict is over, Dan and Abra arrange a second conflict with what's left of the Knot in the remains of the Overlook Hotel, which Dan has to, as he puts it, wake up. And this is when they worked in the exposition of what's happened to Dan's mother since The Shining, that she died when he was 20. And it also explains that when someone's about to die, he tends to see flies on them. Though we never the only time it's ever actually shown is when he has a moment related to the one night stand that's shown at the beginning of the film. So the film's ups and downs. Like I mentioned, it's got a great cast. Mike Flanagan, who directed the Haunting of Hill House for Netflix, did a great job directing this. And to be fair, I'd love to see him do a remake of The Shining, and maybe one that's actually a theatrical remake of The Shining that's actually at least closer to the book than Stanley Kubrick's version, which Stanley Kubrick's version is a classic. Speaking of The Shining, there's a lot of really, really well done visual callbacks to it, including a nice recreation of the film's opening sequence with the camera going through the mountains. It's so good, so good. Also, The visual effects are pretty decent. Some of the CG looks a little. Some of it looks good. The real, I think the real star when it comes to visual effects, though, is for the members of the True Knot when they cycle, which is as they die in a very interesting and visual manner that was pretty much. It was one of those cases of the visual effects crew was probably given the bits for the book. Like, okay, this is what happens when they die. So you need to recreate this, and they did. And moving on to, the movie's long, 2.5 hours, and for as long as it is, there are a lot of really important plot points that are just completely dropped. Hence, my saying it's wrong. It's long in the wrong places. Bruce Greenwood plays a character named Dr. John in this. Dr. John is in 2-3 scenes, and only 2 of those does he have any real meat. The character he plays is actually very important in the book, and in fact serves as a link between Danny and Abra, as Dr. John is Abra's pediatrician and a member of one of the AA groups that Dan frequents, and is a friend of Dan's because of AA. Also, there's a very involved plot point involving Abra's mother, or Abra's great-grandmother, which is, it's mentioned. It's paid lip service. Basically, her mother explains, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go visit Momo, and like before. Do you know she's gonna be okay?" That we don't see Momo. We don't have any of the interactions with her that exist that happen in the book. Then Abra's parents are also horrendously underdeveloped. That's why I didn't mention them in the cast, because they are literally just her mother and father. That's all that really needs to be said about them. And because of its length, also it does have some pacing issues because of that. It makes the movie feel bloated. And God, hell, the ending is, it's a big joke. Stephen King doesn't know how to end a book. Guess what? Doctor Sleep is a book he knew how to end. The movie comes off as a Stephen King novel ending. I'll leave it at that when it comes to talk about the ending. So overall opinion. Honestly, the source novel deserves a much better adaptation, and The Shining deserves a far better sequel. Hell, The Cast deserves a better movie. Rating at... It's a 2.5 out of 5. This is definitely a disappointment for me. Anywho, as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. If you saw the movie, let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I put new content. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.